Okay, it looks like we are live, but let's just give it a couple of minutes to um, settle in and let people log in. Heather, I'm looking at the screen on Facebook, and with us side by side, it's actually kind of fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Okay, I see a couple people. I'm going to get this pulled up on my phone real quick, friends. So give us just a minute here.
Good morning, everybody. It is early morning on the West Coast, so if my eyes look blinky and blurry, I'm just gonna say sorry.
Yes, it is very, very early for Heather.
I'm usually a morning person, but maybe not always 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, okay. So I see people joining in. I'm seeing some comments. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. It is about 8 o'clock here. I'm in Minneapolis. It is 6 o'clock where Heather is over in the Seattle area. So a little bit early for us, but more so for Heather. So, but thank you guys for joining us. We're excited to teach this class with you today. This is our first time really doing a Notions Commotions event, so bear with us. I'm going to teach the first card. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of how we're going to run this card, we're going to kind of see how timing goes. So I'm going to start with the slimline card that I made first, and then we're going to take a look at the time and see where we're at. If we feel like we're running a little bit behind, Heather is going to go ahead and take over and teach her slimline card. And then at that point, we have an A2 card that is in those project sheets that we gave you. We're hoping we can get to it. But if not, you have all of the product you need to recreate it. So it's going to be the last thing we do. And if we even get to just part of it or whatever, you have the project sheet and all the products, so you can certainly make it on your own. So I think we are good. I'm trying to see if I can see the comments live on my phone. I'm having a hard time seeing that. Do you see them live on your phone?
Not on my phone, but I can see them live on my laptop.
That's tricky for me. Okay, so since you are in the group, Heather, I'm probably going to rely a little bit on you to answer questions because my laptop is going to be faced a different way from me. So
sounds good.
Okay, I'm going to switch the view to speaker view.
Okay. And I will mute myself and go off.
Perfect. All right. Bear with us while we get everything switched over here. Okay. So I am going to just verify. I'm going to let this catch up on Facebook and just verify that it's showing my desktop. We do have about a 20 to 30 second delay because we are using Zoom to do this so that we both can be on this live feed for you guys. Alrighty, we're getting there. I'm just making sure it's getting to my desk here. Okay, so we are going to, there we go. I just had to switch it over on Zoom. We are going to be making this slimline card today. This is the first slimline card that we are going to create. Let me turn my volume down on my phone. Okay, there we go. So we don't get some weird echo. There's a 2-minute delay. Oh, goodness. Okay, well, that's okay. We'll just work with it. So let's go ahead and get started. So things that we are going to work with today are these, and these are all things that were included in your kit. So we're going to be using the Floral Notes 4x12 slimline stamp, stencil, and die set. This is like one of my very favorite stamp sets that we released. As last year, we released these great 4x12 slimline sized stamps. And we have, I think, 5 in total. And this, you know, they're all amazing. This is one of my favorites. It's just so fun and whimsical and so easy to do. Once we get into creating this, I think you guys are gonna see that it is just so much fun. And then for the background, we have the diagonal stripes stencil, which is just a slimline background stencil. And then of course the phrase builder, hello. Hopefully we did mention in the project sheets to asking you guys to die cut your words first. Hopefully you did. If not, that's okay. If you're following along, you might just get a little bit behind, but of course you have the project sheets and everything available to you for recreating even afterwards. So we are going to jump right in. So we're going to start with making the first background. So I have just a sheet of white cardstock here, trimmed a bit larger than the actual stencil. And the reason being for that is I like to have enough room to ink blend, and then I can just trim the piece that I want down after I'm done. And it just makes sure that I get all of the stencil ink blended. So we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to verify this is in my screen and just tape it down here. Tape down that sheet first. And then I do have some leftover pixie spray on the back of this stencil, but I'm still going to go ahead and tape this stencil down as well. Let's see, Stacy, I believe that we are using the Hammer Mill 100-pound super smooth white cardstock, I think. But Nina Solar White would work as well. Also, sorry. Okay, so we are going to ink blend this in some soft lilac. Now, you probably don't have all of the same colors as I do. So what I think what we sent in the kits is you guys got a light and a dark of a couple of colors, one that is more geared towards the florals, and then one that is more geared towards the leaves. So if you don't have soft lilac, that is okay. Just go ahead and grab the lighter color of the ink that is geared more towards the petals, whatever that might be. And feel free to ask questions in here if you need to. Heather is watching the comments, and I did figure out why I was not able to see the live comments, and I am seeing them. They're just a little bit delayed. And we're just going to go ahead and start blending. And you'll notice on that card that there are areas where I blended really, really, really light and areas where I blended heavier. And that is just to give it some gradation and a little bit of a nice texture throughout the card, so that it doesn't just look all the same every so that each stripe is just all the same. So I'm going to start with doing just a nice soft ink blend at first. And one thing, we do get a lot of questions about blending brushes that we're using. I do want to mention right up front, we do not sell blending brushes. We do not carry blending brushes. We are just using blending brushes that work best for us. So like I use a combination of these brushes and then the Picket Fence Studio Life Changing brushes, and I believe Heather uses another version. So there is just not any, but just so you know, we do not carry these brushes. Alrighty, so we are close to having this done. And as you can see, I kind of blended a little bit deeper in the areas where I know that some of the flowers are gonna peek through. But in the end, it's really not a big deal. You just wanna have a little bit of gradation here and there. So one thing about premium dye inks in general, not just our premium dye inks, is if you feel like they look splotchy at first, you just have to wait because dye inks are trying to dye your paper. So at first they might feel like they look a little splashy, although I never really do feel like ours look like that. But if you do feel like that, just give it a little bit of time. And as that ink soaks into the paper, you will see that it will end with this nice soft finish. Okay, so first background is complete. Let's take all the tape off here and do the big reveal. This one's not as exciting as the flowers, but it is still kind of exciting. And look at that. You have this gorgeous background all ready for your card. Now, I don't really feel like I need to wipe this down. But if you, one thing that we clean our stencils with a lot, especially when we're doing lives like this, is just a little bit of rubbing alcohol and then wiping it down. And that actually makes it so it dries really fast. So it gets it nice and clean. It gets all of the ink off and it dries really fast so you can use it again. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and trim down this panel. And we are just going to trim it right at the edge of the stenciling. I know that my camera angle doesn't allow for my entire paper trimmer in here, but I'm sure you will get the gist of what I'm doing here. So we'll go ahead and trim it down. Oops, this is a little stuck on here. So that it just is the exact size of the stencils. So our slimline stencils are based on the true slimline size of 3 and 5/8 by 8 and 5/8. So, but the great thing about it is you can always trim it down if you want it to be the 8.5 by 3.5. We're going to be mounting these onto 4x9 cards today, which fit in a business envelope. So kind of a nice option. Okay, so the first part of our card is done. Here's our blended background. We're going to just go ahead and set this aside. So up next, we are going to ink blend the floral part. And so for this card, we're actually not going to use the stamp. We're going to use just the stencils. And it's going to give it that nice, like no line coloring feel, but it takes significantly less time than actual no line coloring. So let me grab all of those pieces, and I just have to find my pieces of cardstock that I had cut for this, and they have seemed to disappear. Oh, here they are. Perfect. Okay, one thing that I do suggest doing is just verifying that your stencils are the right way up, because I think the last time I did this, they weren't. So I just need to make sure that I have them. Aha, there we go. So there's that one. Maybe they were. There's that one. There we go. Okay. You can really do these in any order that you want. I'm going to go ahead and tape this. Oops, I'm going to do it this way actually. Just verify that most of this is on the screen. There should just have been extra. So there was cardstock cut for card bases, and then there were just extra sheets of cardstock in your kit, and we're just using some of those extra sheets of cardstock. Make sure that you try to conserve as much as you can, because we are going to be using those pieces of extra cardstock multiple times. Okay, so this first layer is the florals. And so we are going to ink the first floral up in that lighter shade of whatever ink color you have meant for if you have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, just cut a 4 by 8.5 inch sheet of cardstock. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and ink blend the first layer. And the great thing about the stencils is you already get some really cool, what looks to be a little bit like shadowing in it, because as the ink pools more at the edges of the stencils, you just get that gradiated look or that shadowed look, or just, you know, just some added detail to the image so they don't look flat. They look nice and dimensional in a way. So we're just using some soft lilac, but you use whatever of the oh yes, so I think my stencils don't have the my stencils are samples, so that's why I was having a little bit harder time knowing which one was which, and I think I'd put them back in their packaging correctly. But yes, I believe your guys' stencils actually tell you what the top is, so that will be a little bit easier for you guys. I think I had forgotten about that. Okay, so I think that is enough on this one. So this is just the first set of florals, and we're going to look at this. Like, it's always fun to reveal. It's always fun to reveal as each stencil goes on. Sheila, no, they are not supposed to be exactly the same. So I feel like something maybe there was a little manufacturing mishap with your package. So I apologize for that, but we'll just need to deal with it via email afterwards. Okay, so up next is this stencil here. Also, on the back of the stamp packaging, there is an image of the florals. So you can kind of use it as a guide for where all of these pieces need to go. Okay, well, I'm not really sure why there's so many problems with the packages of stencils. So we'll have to take care of it afterwards. There's nothing I can do about it in the class right now. And I feel like these are not lining up as well for me as they did the first time I did this, but we'll get it. And Heather, I think you are listening in. If you want to message Kinnery real quick and just let her know about this. Okay, I feel like this is just not right. Sorry, guys. Having some, there we go. My bad, I had flipped it around again. Okay. There we go. That was my problem. I was just lining it up incorrectly. And I believe you guys have stencils with the etching on there. So you won't have as much problem as I'm having over here. Okay. So up next, we are going to ink blend this next layer, which is more of like just floral details and some of the flowers. I am using Candy Violet. You will want to use the just a little darker shade of whatever color it was that you were sent for the blooms. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys have etching on yours. I'm going to have to get mine replaced. I think I know where I can do that. Okay. Yes, this layer will overlap with some of the petals. It's basically bringing in some details to those larger florals. And then it's also adding in some smaller little flowers around those larger ones as well. So super easy to ink up and get ready. I'm just wiping it down with a dry cloth. I'll clean it with a little bit of alcohol a little bit later. So here is the reveal for the second piece. And this is what it looks like. So fun, nice, a little bit of dimension, added color, super easy to do because you have the stencils doing all of the work for you. And then finally, we have the final layer, which is the leaves. And for this piece, I just try to use my florals as a guide here. This is going to have to come off. Okay. And just line it up. Now, it's a little bit trickier to line up when you're not using it in conjunction with the stamp, but it does work, I promise. Okay. And I see that Heather got an answer. For those that are missing a stencil, please go ahead and email Kelly at pinkfreshstudio.com. Okay, and then for this final layer, I am using aquamarine. And we are just going to ink up these leaves. You might have an aqua shade, you might have a green for your leaves. Just use whatever color you received in your kit. Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad that you like the ink blending. I might say this incorrectly, git or gitty. We are loving how easy it is to create such a beautiful colored image like this with our layering stencils. And basically, it works every time. And it makes you look like you spent hours upon hours upon hours creating this beautiful card. And, oh, are you guys ready for the big reveal? Ta-da! That is how fun and easy it is to create a beautiful layered floral. Now you can take these all a step further and you can add in, you know, glitter paste or embossing paste. You could rub an embossing ink over one of the layers and then sprinkle embossing powder on it and heat set it to give it that shine. There's so many great options. You could go in with more color, with darker colors, and just add finer details with a smaller brush. There's really so many options with our layering stencil sets that we've been coming out with in the last part of this year. And they're just super fun and easy. Really, anyone can do it. They're really easy to line up, and especially when you have the etching on the front. Okay, so final step on this guy is we are going to go ahead and die cut it. Yes, and when you're not doing it live, when you're just sitting at your desk doing this, it goes really, really fast. Like you can do these just in a quick instant. They don't take any time at all. So really great for really great for, you know, if you're wanting to make multiple cards at one time. So just lots of options. Okay, give me just I'm going to run this through my Gemini real quick, so it might just be a little loud for a second. Okay. And sometimes I feel like the Post-it tape sticks a little more than I'd like it to, but it works. Okay, so we've got that piece die cut out. And as you can see, I started a little bit too far off. Not a big deal. So just make sure that you start your card maybe a little bit further down on your cardstock. I did a little bit better job of lining up those layering stencils the first time I did it. It's a little bit harder when you're live, but with the engraving on the front, it's definitely also a little bit easier, and that's the version that you guys have. Okay, so we have created the striped and we've created the flowers. So one thing that we did ask you guys to do beforehand was die cut your words from your phrase builder hello die set that we sent along. If not, it's okay. For this card, we are using this word beautiful. And we are going to just add a little bit of ink blending to the bottom of it. Not too much. So just a little bit to give it a little bit of just nice color. So I'm mostly just going to use the excess I have in my brush from doing the leaves, but as you can see, I do tap a little bit on that aqua ink pad. And just to give the bottom just a little bit of an ombre feel and a little bit of color. So easy enough, just like that. Oh, I'm glad you guys are loving the stencils. I'm glad you think that they're high quality. We love to hear that. We work really hard to make sure that our products are all of the absolute highest quality that we can get. So it's lovely to hear that. So thank you so much for letting us know that. So I did cut the shadow somewhere from vellum. Here it is. We did not send you vellum, so you don't have to do this part. We did add it as an extra thing to just have with you in class, but you can just leave it if not. But I'm just gonna go ahead and glue this on there so it's ready. And that is too much glue in one spot. So we're just, maybe it's just meant to have a lot of glue in that one spot. And I'm just going to dot a couple. I don't coat the whole thing in glue. I just, a few dots here and there, I feel like works perfectly to get it attached to that shadow piece. Okay. And you have a little bit of time with that liquid glue to move it into the right spot. And it's okay if a little bit peeks out underneath your die cut, it will dry clear. Okay. And then of course, this card has tittles, which I have saved in this little cup. And the one thing that I have found is easiest for adding a tittle is to use like a jewel picker. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue. Ooh, that is too much. I don't know what is making this glue. Normally it just puts out like the tiniest little bit. We did not send the vellum. We just added that to the list of supplies that that we to have on hand. I think this is just like 40-pound vellum, but you can really use anything, and you can leave it off too. You don't have to use it. Okay, man, of course, my little glue guy is just acting strange. Of course, it would happen on a live like this, but we're just gonna go with it, friends. So I did 3 layers on this, so that's why I'm adding 3 of the tittles here. Ooh, I just need one. Just give me one. Okay, we'll just grab a different one. Alrighty, so there is that. That part is done, and we are gonna set this aside to let that glue really set up. And we're gonna do the final step on this card before we assemble it, and that is gonna be stamping directly to the striped panel. So I'm gonna use a stamping platform. You can use any stamping platform that you have on hand or prefer. I'm using a Misty, but you can use any really. So as you can see, this is a tiny bit too long for my stamping platform, but that's okay because we are going to stamp over here anyway, so it doesn't really matter that that part is there. Okay, so we are going to use one of the sentiments from the Floral Notes stamp set, the You Made My Day. And I'm going to use my floral piece as a guide at first. Hopefully that didn't come through. I got a little notification on my phone. So I'm just going to use this piece as a guide, and this a little bit too, because I don't want it to stick too far off. Okay, so we want this to go up a little. Okay, so we're going to put this guy, oops, right in here. Okay. And then let's just verify that it is straight. Heather has a great trick when she's using these little sentiments like this, that if you get a little bit of water on your fingers, and that's not super straight, so let's just fix that. It makes it release a little bit better from your fingers, so it doesn't keep sticking to you, but I don't have any with me, so we're just having to go with it. Okay, so I am going to ink this up with our Detail Black. Detail Black comes in both a full-size ink pad and an ink cube. I like the ink cube for when I am inking up sentiments like this, just because I feel like I have a little bit more control and I don't get Detail Black ink all over my stamping platform. So I am a firm believer in stamping twice, because I'm a light stamper, because a lot of times our little sentiments are very dainty, or the font is very thin, and I want to maintain that look. So I am a firm believer in lightly inking and then just lightly stamping as well, so to maintain the integrity of what the sentiment actually looks like. Can you give a close-up of the title? I'm assuming you mean the card sentiment. So I am using from the Floral Notes stamp set that was in your kit, the one that says You Made My Day. So hopefully that's what you meant. If not, just let me know in the questions if you meant something different than that. Okay, so let's get that cleaned off and put away, because I know that I am like the queen of, oh, the tittle. Okay, give me just 1 second. I'll show you that in a minute. I looked at the word tittle and saw title. So I will show you that in just 1 second. Okay. Let me find that real quick. So I think this is what you mean. So the dot over like an I or a lowercase j or whatever is called a tittle. And so I just adhered it into its place over top of the I in our die cut word. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, guys, now we can start assembling our card real quick. So in your kit, you should have some sheets of cardstock that are cut to 8 by 9. And what we're going to do is you're going to turn them into a 4 by 9 card. So you want the 8-inch edge to be where you want you want to score and fold along the 8-inch side. So you're going to score at 4 inches. I'm glad you learned a new word. I'm not sure when I learned that word. It might have been from our friend Laura Basson. I feel like maybe I learned it from her. I don't completely remember. But yeah, I learned that a while back and it stuck with me. I think I said that word the other day and my husband was like, the what? So everybody learns new words here and there. Okay, so this is a 4 by 9 card. It fits in a standard business sized envelope, which I think is a size 10 envelope. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is. Okay, so we did suggest that you guys have some foam tape with you or some type of foam adhesive, and I am going to just adhere down that ink blended striped background with some strips of foam tape. Ooh, I'm getting down to the last bit of this one, but never fear. I have a whole other huge roll. I would just have to, if I run out, I just have to run over to my little, I think we have enough though. Run over to my little cart to the left of me and grab the next roll, but I think we're good. Okay, so we've got some foam tape on there. Take that off. And we are going to center that striped background in the middle of your 4 by 9 card. Oh, Martha, I'm glad you love the size of the die cuts. We do too. And the great thing about them is they really do work for both A2 sized cards and slimline. We wanted them to be long enough so that if you were using them on a slimline, they just didn't look too small compared to the long slimline size. And as you guys can tell, I'm a little fussy about stuff. I just want to make sure that it gets there. So I'm glad you love the size of it. That makes us happy because that was definitely a very specific thing that we chose to do. Okay, so up next we are going to do the flowers. And hopefully this is, you know what? We're just going to use some foam squares because I don't think that is sticky enough. And I will need to grab my roll of foam tape before I do my next card. All right. This might take me a minute to take off all of the backing, but that's okay. It's part of crafting, isn't it? I'm glad I had the little squares close by. Get those off my desk. And now we are going to layer the floral piece, just kind of flanking the sentiment. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and add this. I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue to adhere the die cut part of the sentiment. Mimi, the card base is 4x9. There were sheets of cardstock cut in your kit to 9x8, which were meant for creating your 4x9 card. Okay. You could also put little tiny pieces of foam tape on the back of this and pop this up for even more dimension if you want to. I do that a lot, but I thought that this card had a good enough amount of dimension in order, you know, so it didn't really need much more. Okay, I am going to kind of overlap the bee a little bit with that flower. Oh, Kieran, for this, I'm just using regular glue because I am putting the glue behind the actual solid word part, so you won't see it come through. Okay, we have one final step. We're going to accent with jewels, which I just have to grab real quick because it's the one thing that I did not pull out, but it's not too far away, so I will just be back in 1 second here. Okay, so oops, so we have these essentials jewels. We sent you guys just an envelope of the white ones. They're just a little sample, basically, but we carry this full set of jewels in all of these different colors. They come in all one set. So the jewels that you have in your kits are a representation of the white ones, but they all have that same beautiful iridescent finish to them, just in all of the different colors. So just to show you what the full product looks like. And if you're looking for it, that's where you'll find the jewels that we're going to use. So I'm going to grab my jewel picker wherever it made its way to. Here it is. And we are just going to do just a little bit of accents, just some trios of jewels to give the card a little bit of shimmer and shine. I add jewels to pretty much everything. It's kind of my little signature touch. Yes, 12 colors in total. So we love jewels at Pinkfresh Studio. And people, we have noticed that crafters really love those jewels a lot too. So, and they love that they come in all the 12 colors in the one package, and you get that great little carrying package to keep all of your jewels nice and safe. It's great for, you know, when we are able to actually go back out and craft together and be together in person. It's perfect for taking to a crop or a craft night. So we love those little packages of jewels. Okay, so that is where I'm going to put my jewels down. I'm going to close this up so I don't spill them everywhere, because I am known and prone to do that. Okay. And we're just going to go ahead and glue them down. Once again, I'm just using a jewel picker. Any type of jewel picker will work. You can use your fingers too if you don't have a jewel picker, and a little bit of liquid glue to tap them down. My hand might get a little bit in the way. I apologize, but I will show you this in full in just a minute. Nope, you're going to use the stencils again. So you'll want to leave the stencils out, maybe wipe them down, give them a good wipe down, because you're going to, well, actually you'll be using your same colors. So you actually probably don't have to. Yes, so we do have 5-step stencils that we just released at the end of 2020. So, and those are so fun. We're loving all of the layering stencils. Okay, so that is my card for today, for my first card for today, friends. So hopefully you all made it through with me on that. But if not, of course, you have the project sheet, and you can recreate it as many times as you want. If you have our ink colors, if you have a set of our ink colors, we have 48 shades of premium dye inks in 12 color families. There are 4 shades in each color family to give you perfect matching for ink blending, for stamp layering, lots of great options. Okay, so I am going to give it over to Heather real quick. I can see she just is getting her desk ready. So I am going to go ahead and get my video turned off and my audio turned off. And Heather's going to take over for this next segment.
Okay, I had to unmute myself there so that we could go ahead and get started. I wanted to make sure I was all set and ready to go. Let me give it a minute here and see if it goes ahead and moves over to the right camera here real quick so we can get started before I move on too far. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I think it's working now. There we go. I just wanted to make sure you could see. Hi, everybody. Perfect. I'm glad the pace was good. Leah's card, of course, was beautiful. So here's the card that I'm going to make with you today, another slimline card. We're going to be using a lot, pretty much, I mean, obviously you have all the same products that we're going to use on this same card. We're just going to show some different ways to use this. One fun thing with this slimline stencil is we can flip it over to make this fun kind of plaid grid background. So now that I can see it's all on there working, let's go ahead and get started. I already have, so you should have another panel of cardstock from the one that you cut for what we did with Leah. She did hers 4x9. I went ahead and just trimmed mine off the bottom of an 8.5 by 11. So mine is just 8.5 by 4. So mine's a tiny bit smaller than hers was, but if you have a 4x9, it's almost exactly the same and it'll work. So however you decide to do that, I am going to switch my colors up a little bit. Again, same thing, use the colors that you have in your thing. On this one, I used some of the yellows and the greens. So I'm going to switch up over to yellow, or not yellow, to orange, just because I think it'll show up on camera a little bit better. I did the yellow, but I was afraid you wouldn't be able to see it quite well enough. So let's go ahead and start on this. I'm just going to set this. I like to use a panel. Excuse me, I've been sick here and my voice hasn't 100% come back yet. I'd like to use just a panel of just cheap printer paper. Leah has a glass mat. I don't. So I just use this to kind of protect my work surface and keep it clean. So I'm going to start by just layering this over. And as you can kind of see on here, now I like to put, everyone does it a little different and tapes it down. I like to put a little Post-it tape or some form of removable tape on the back of my panel. And then I can just kind of put my stencil on here and it'll hold it in place really nicely. Okay, let me just kind of center that. As you can see, my stencil kind of overlaps a little, and we're going to trim it down at the end. So I'm not too worried about that. So what I'm going to start, so this first one, I'm going to start with my lightest of, I guess what would be the ink more that you'd have for your florals. And as Leah mentioned, I use lots of different blending brushes. These are the Pink and Main ergonomic ones. I just like how nicely they work for big panels and stuff like this. But I also have for the floral some of the life-changing blender brushes as well. I'm kind of blender brush happy because I really like them. So I'm going to start with Peach Fuzz ink, and I'm just going to really softly blend. And what I'm trying to end up with is having my colors a little softer in the middle and a little darker on the edges. So this is just kind of a gradual layering ink blending. I found when I'm ink blending, I really like just to kind of start soft and then build up, because you can always keep adding more color on. You can't make it softer once it's down and on there. So I generally tend to err on the side of a little too soft and then add more if I need to. And then I found for me, it's easiest for me just to turn my whole panel around instead of trying to. So to clean between, Sue, I know, so I label mine with color families, so I don't have to clean them as much between the color families, just because I do so much ink blending. I also, in between, I'll use, just like Leah did, just like a clean microfiber cloth, and I'll use that just to kind of scrub it on there and clean them. And I know Leah does that, and she doesn't have one for all of her color families, and that works really well for her. Whoopsie, okay, that didn't work so good. I got a little too firm there on my ink blending. Also with the stencil here, I found just to kind of help hold, because these strips are so thin, and I didn't put pixie spray on this. So if you don't have pixie spray on there, I found if I just kind of put my hand on there, that's the easiest way to keep, just kind of keep it held in place, so you don't have to worry about it moving as much as it just did there, but I wasn't fully paying attention there. All right, I'm gonna make sure I have my color as deep as I want it on there, and then I'm gonna use that same cloth there to clean off my stencil real quick a little bit. I am gonna clean it a little bit better, and I'll show you why. So you're gonna wanna do that as well. All right, the first magic reveal, and you can see how it has a little bit of a softer, kind of an ombre look. The white stencil cardstock. So mine is 4 by 8.5. I just trimmed it off the bottom of an 8.5. If you have your 4 by 9, it'll just be a little bigger, but just like Leah's, we'll just trim it down at the end. So, so that'll work just fine. I'm just using a wet damp cloth here now to clean my stencil. As Leah mentioned, I just don't have it here with me, easy to do. But she uses rubbing alcohol just to spray on, and then that microfiber cloth to clean it, which works really well, especially if you're using some of more of the red families or pinks. Those tend to kind of stain and hang around on the stencil, so that works really well. I also just have some older acrylic stamp cleaner just to spray on, and I've used that to clean my stamps before, but this orange works pretty well, so I wasn't too worried about that as I went along. All right, now that I've got that clean, I'm giving it just a second to make sure it's fully dry, since I used a damp cloth. That is one way that the alcohol is a little bit better. And then, as you can see, I put it on here this way. So we're gonna just completely flip it over so the stripes go the complete reverse here. And I wanna get it in place here before that sticker wants to grab me there. Okay, I think that'll work on there. So you can see how the stripes now go the reverse direction. So we're going to switch over to the other color. Yes, a baby wipe works, does work fine. That's what I just used to clean my clean mine off there. I found it doesn't work as well on pretty much the pink and the red are the only colors that I really have trouble, and the alcohol is works way better. So I definitely do it on those, especially if I'm switching colors in between. The first time I stenciled with, I'd used pink on one of my stencils, and then I tried to use some gray, and let's just say it had a little bit of a pink tint because I hadn't cleaned it off. And I've heard that hand sanitizer works too. So yeah, especially now everybody has that. All right, I'm going to move on, excuse me, to my mint ink, which is my lightest of the green or the leaf color, whatever you have for that. I'm going to do the same thing, deeper at the top, and just work my way down to softer. And one thing that's funny too is a lot of times through the stencil, you can't see actually how much color you have on there. It almost looks softer, especially once I've switched like this. I feel like I can't see the color quite as well as once I take the stencil off. So again, don't be afraid to go soft. If you want darker and bolder, you can always go darker and bolder. I know some of you have some deeper colors as well. So if you're starting with a deeper color, definitely a soft touch with the blending brush is really going to be your friend to get that soft look. Because even the deepest, I've ink blended all the way with the darkest shades of our greens, the olives and some of those. And if you just have a really soft touch as you go on it, you can still get a soft color just with a deeper shade, if that makes sense. So just something to know and be aware of, that you don't have to go super bold, even if it seems like a bolder, darker color. All right, I'm going to flip that around again and do the same thing here on the other end. I love just how you can get a different look with the stencil. And you could do the same thing with the exact same color families for kind of a tone on tone. To me, it almost looks like a lattice background, like in a garden. So I really love it with florals like this. I think it's just kind of perfect for that. And then we're going to do some tone on tone stenciling over the top. So that's kind of why I wanted to keep these colors a little on the softer side, because I want to be able to see the florals and the stenciling that we're going to do over the top. And you can see with how much inking we're doing why I love the big surface of these blender brushes from Pink and Main. Okay, make sure here that I have a little bit of soft color in the middle there. I don't want to go too soft because I want to be able to see the... And don't be afraid to, especially as I get close here, I want to kind of peek under and see. That's actually about right there. I think I'm going to put just a dab more along here. But I think I'm actually pretty happy with where we're at for the color here. All right. I'm going to do, again, just a quick little bit of a clean off here before I lift this up, just because it's easier. And here comes the next magic reveal. I'll pull off that off the back now too, because we don't need that anymore. Was everyone able to keep up with the ink blending? I'm going to clean this off here real quick, since give a minute. If you had slightly smaller blending brushes, I realize it might have taken you a little bit longer to ink blend that. So let me know if I need to kind of hold up a minute before I move on too much here. Get my stuff cleaned up and kind of out of the way. All right, good. Sounds like someone is good with the speed. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this panel down. Same thing that Leah did, only mine's already 8.5 instead of the 9. So all I need to do is trim it down, and I'm going to go, hopefully that shows enough there on the screen that you can see. I just use a paper trimmer that I can look and just kind of eyeball and see where I'm at on there. So that way I knew I could trim it down to the right size. Okay. Sounds like we're all good with speed. So I just trimmed that down now. And you're going to create your card base the exact same way that Leah created hers. I've already trimmed mine down here, or not trimmed it, I've scored it. So same with Leah, you should have an 8 panel, another panel that's 8 by 9. So you want to score it on that 4 and then crease it down. So I did do that already. So you can kind of see how that's going to mat and fit on there. And then this is already 8.5, and I just trimmed down the extra to the edge of my stencil, which means this should be, I can look and measure it, hold on. About 3.5 is what this is trimmed down to. So this is 3.5 by 8.5. And then this card base is 4 by 9. So it gives you a nice little mat around it. And as Leah mentioned, it makes it the perfect size to fit in a number 10 business envelope. But before I adhere that down, I'm gonna grab my stamp positioner here real quick, wanting to stick together. And we're gonna add our floral stamping right onto the back of this. And then this is also where we're gonna add some stenciling. So this is just my regular size MISTI. And I love some of this is kind of a nice way to be able to stamp this on your project and not need a larger MISTI. Since this is a slimline stamp here, get it pulled off of there. You can see if I started like down here and stamp off the edge, I'd need a really, like the memory MISTI, a very large MISTI. Let me make sure that's on the screen. But by doing this kind of stamping a little bit at an angle across the top. So I'm gonna go, let's see, I'm gonna kind of, there we go. I want to kind of get it fit in there real quick. So I'm just gonna kind of angle it so it's across the top there. I'm leaving a space here for my sentiment to go. And the way I'm stamping that in there, we're just gonna be able to rotate this panel and do the same thing on the other side. So I know we didn't send you the detail black ink. It's on your supply list just to use your favorite black ink. This is my favorite black ink, so this works really well for me. And I'm gonna do much the same as Leah. I'm gonna stamp this 2 times. This is a pretty bold, solid image, so I'm not exactly worried about it stamping well. Same thing, I like to be able to, if I'm using a stamp positioner, I really like to take advantage of the fact that I can stamp more than one time and just get that really crisp, solid impression without having to put too much pressure on my stamps or anything like that. All right, excuse my desk as it shakes. So there's our first layer. I'm gonna pull this off and I'm gonna rotate it. Oh, and I had a little ink smudge on my fingers. Good thing our stamping is gonna cover that. Better clean my fingers off in between. So just by rotating that completely around, now I can stamp the exact same thing up here in this corner. And it's gonna, I think I might have gone a little close in. My sentiment's gonna be a little squished in, but it'll work. It'll be fine. And we'll have more of the florals on there. Okay, I stamped that twice again. Before I touch much of anything, I'm gonna clean off here and then clean off my fingers just a little bit too, just to make sure. And I'll clean this off better. I just wanted to get the first little bit of the ink off and out of the way for the moment so I can tuck this up here and out of my way. All right, so now we have these florals all stamped on here like this. In a little bit, I'll add my sentiment in here, but I'm gonna first pull out our coordinating stencils. And again, sorry for those of you that I know are missing some layers. I'm gonna make sure that I have, that one is good. I've got them all, it looks like in order. So we should be, actually, I think that goes, nope. I need to look at the back of my thing to make sure I'm lined up. Ah, okay, I remember now. All right, so I've got all these in the right order, so that's all good. So I'm gonna use the same ink colors we used on the background. So it's gonna give it a nice tone on tone effect. I'm gonna go ahead and start with that large flower image. And I'm gonna hold it in place. This time, I'm not gonna put the tape on the back of my project like I did. I'm just gonna quickly tape it in place a little bit once I can. Oops, and then it moved right as I taped it down. Okay, there we go. All right, and this is where I'm gonna use my smaller, the life-changing blender brushes. And so use your 2 petal colors. I'm using Peach Fuzz and Clementine on this one, but I'm gonna start just for the florals. I'm only gonna use the Peach Fuzz here and go over these large florals. And you can see how it gets a really nice tone on tone. That color's gonna pop on there really nicely from the background. And I would say it's probably a little more ideal to stamp with that black and let it dry a little bit more. I'm noticing it's still nice and crisp on there, so I'm getting ever so tiny bit of smudging with the black ink. Normally I kind of stamp that and let it sit for a little bit, depending on where you live in the humidity. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so, you know, the humidity is a little crazy here, so. And I'm just gonna see without moving my tape if I can, yep, if I can just line that up in there and then hold it in place without having to lift it up. And rotate around and we'll do the exact same ink blending on the other side. And then when we layer our next one on, we can move on to our darker shade. All right, so that's the lightest with the peach fuzz. Clean that off a little, and just likely I'll fully clean it a little bit later. All right, so there's our first layer. And again, the ink smudging, don't worry about that. It just adds a little more depth. And if you had more time, letting it sit a little bit in between is kind of a good way to do that. All right, I'm gonna layer on here next, the next layer here on the florals. It's really easy to see how they line up. As long as you get these spots and then line those up there, I don't even, once I figured out what I was doing, I didn't even have to look at the back. Yes, and you know what I have used? I have the magnetic, the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Staycation. I have used that exact same thing and it's worked really well. The other thing is you can put pixie spray on the back. I haven't on this one. I have on some others, but not on this one. All right, so again, I'm using Clementine ink, which is the third darkest shade in our oranges. And there's a little less ink blending to do on this one because these are only the little small areas. All right, and I'm just gonna pull that out. You can kind of see that on there and rotate her around so that we can do same thing on the other ones there. And you could pull the stencil up if it's easier to. I just figure it's already taped in place. If I can just line it up here, then it's just gonna save me the work of taping down. Okay. Clean that off just a little bit here. And then I'll peel that up. You can kind of see the colors. I love how this looks tone on tone. And you could also do the same thing and die cut it and pop it up. I just thought it was kind of fun how it goes over that background layer. And you can kind of see it all coming together there. Okay, and then since you have two shades of green or leaf color, whatever form that might be in, I'm gonna go ahead and use the deeper shade of that. I'm gonna use Emerald City for this. I realize I pulled out blue and I need the green brush, not the blue. So I'm gonna use Emerald City for my leaf layer on this. And I'm gonna try and kind of keep it fairly soft because it's enough of a contrast from where I was already with the background color. So it's gonna help it pop out a little bit more. And I always like, Leah has a glass mat that she does it on so she can kind of pick that ink back up and use it again. I don't, so I just dab my brush off a little there on the paper. That kind of gets the initial big smudge of ink. There we go. The leaf layer on this is really where I feel like it starts to come together and you really see those layers. Super fun. I did just notice I missed a little bit of a large leaf there, so I might have to go back and add that. I don't know how, I just somehow did. But that's okay. It's not too big a deal. Okay, hold that down in place. And I like coloring but I love just how quick and easy and the variation you get with the ink blending. And like that last card that Leah did where you can do the no line look, and some of our new stencils that we just released in December, we didn't have them in time to mail out for the class kits for this. So we went with this because we could kind of achieve that look as well. But they have 5 layers and they've been so popular. We all love them so much. Okay, that last magic reveal there. And again, I might just, we'll give everyone a few seconds to catch up if you didn't get done yet. I'm just gonna, pretty much gonna line up this little bottom part here and come in with my soft, my peach fuzz again, and just fix that little missing spot there. Much better. I don't know how I missed that little tiny bit. Where am I? Let's see, you need to go, there we go. Figure out where it was going there. Okay, tiny fix, but easy to come back in. Oh, awesome. I'm just reading the comment here that you didn't get your kit in time, but you ended up being able to recreate it. That's great. Yeah, we really wanted to work to get those project sheets, just because like Leah mentioned, if we ran out of time, if you get behind or anything like that, those project sheets should spell it out pretty well. It's always fun to see it. And I mean, it'd be way more fun if we could do this in person, of course, but in the meantime, that's kind of a good way to do it. Okay, so this panel is kind of coming together here. We need to add on here. So I guess I need to pull out my Misty again. I guess I do need to pull this off. I was thinking I could just do that later, but kind of set that off to the side here. And then I'm going to add our sentiment. And I've done a stamped sentiment in the middle. I kind of have an optional, you might see on my sample one here, I added a die cut word on this one. That's totally optional. You can leave that off. The stamped sentiment on its own is, I think, really great on this. And I feel like I can never have enough birthday cards. That seems like the one card that I always need a birthday card, and I'm looking, I'm all out of birthday cards. And so I'm going to use that birthday one. You could use any of those sentiments that you want to tuck in there. I think I got that crooked, and I'm going to have to fix that, or it's going to bug me. Make sure I've got that held in place really well. I'll pick that up. And then I'm going to use detail black again on that. You could also stamp that in one of the deeper colors of your ink. And this is a really detailed, kind of a scripty sentiment. So kind of like Leah mentioned, I really like to just stamp it really gently, ink it up gently, and do it 2 times. It really helps kind of keep the detail on that sentiment, because it's got those lovely thin little scripty lines. And if you use your stamp positioner and just, if you're really heavy handed on it, it kind of just, they're so tiny and dainty, it'll kind of push them out and you lose that super fine detailed look. So that's kind of my best tip for trying to keep that working well and lasting longer. All right, normally I have a stamp chamois and I just forgot to grab that so early in the morning. So I'm just using a baby wipe there. I keep those for just cleaning up messes on my desk anyway. And set this up out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and adhere this now onto our card base. I'm just using, I'm not even doing foam adhesive. I'm just keeping this fairly, except for the jewels we're going to add, this would actually be a fairly 1-layer card that would really be nice for popping in the mail or anything like that. I love big bumpy dimensional cards, but I also would like to have some on hand that I know I can send through the mail and not have to pay a bunch of extra postage. Okay, we're starting to come together here. So I do have my words here pre-die cut, same as on that, as what Leah did. And I went ahead and die cut. So this again is using the Phrase Builder Hello set, and it has I know you saw on Leah's, it's got this great shadow layer and then the detail layer that you can use together, or you can just use the die cut word part. I'm using both together again, just because I think it's sort of fun. And then I'm going to go ahead. I just tucked a little Post-it tape back behind so I didn't lose that little tittle on my eye. And while Leah did, she stacked up multiple layers. I just have one single layer that I'm going to do today. And I'm going to do it, I'm going to just do a touch of, let's do that darker emerald green. Pop it on here on my ink blending sheet again. And just carefully, I want to dab off most of the color so that I just am using the last little bit of what's on my brush. And it's just enough going along the bottom. Again, just like Leah did. I could fully ink it in, but I kind of like the sort of, what do you want to call it? Ombre, just soft, so you're getting a little more color on the bottom and a little less on the top. I love that variation in there. I find it's just such a fun, easy way to do it. And yes, the tittle, I know, that's like, I can't even remember where I learned that word, but it was a while back. And let's see if my glue is gonna, oh, good, Sue. I'm so glad. That's kind of why we planned, I mean, we're sending a certain kit and we wanted to show you how to use the same products just in different ways. And I'm looking at the time. I think we're gonna have time to go back to Leah. I'm getting close to done here. So I think we'll have time to go back. I think we have 2 hours if I'm right. So we should be able to go back and give her time to create that A2 card. All right, I like to put my glue on here and use reverse tweezers to pick it up. And then I can adhere that onto my vellum layer, kind of the same as Leah did. And then that little, where is it? The little tittle on there. You wouldn't believe how many of those I lose. Find a way. Okay, and I just want a little dot of glue there. I'm going to use that same jewel picker to adhere that in place because those little tittles are so tiny. Okay, yes, and we do have till 11. So yes, I do believe we should have plenty of time for Leah to go ahead and create her card as well. So I think we're going to get through all 3 today, which is great. We were kind of just trying to be prepared. So if we ran out of time, and again, I'm just putting same liquid glue. I think probably exact same one or something similar is what Leah was doing, just a liquid, and adhering some little dots just behind. I'm gonna kind of hold it up a little closer, and I just put it behind that solid, the solid part of the sentiment. And then you don't have to worry about it popping out behind the vellum. And I love, that's one thing about liquid glue, it gives you just a hair of time to kind of adjust it and slide it around a little if it's not perfect when you put it on there. All right, so that, again, that extra sentiment's totally optional. Let's see, just want to catch. Yeah, Facebook Live, we do a lot of those now. I'm so glad with all of everything happening that we have the technology we have. I mean, as hard as it is to be isolated in a way, especially our, as paper crafters, we all like to be hands-on, and I think we like to be together in groups. But since that's kind of not an option right now, I'm glad we have the technology that we do. Okay, so again, the same jewels. So you guys have the white ones. I am going to switch and use these because I've loved my white ones and used them so much I need a refill, and I don't have the large size. So I want to be able to show you how I'm placing the sizes on here. So I'm going to use just these kind of cream ivory from the front. There's not a huge variation, so the white's going to look, and you guys should have plenty of the white. I'm just running short on them. So what I did on my card there, these come in 3 sizes. So I put my largest size right there on the center of that biggest flower on the outside. And then I took my medium ones and put the medium ones in the center of the other 2 larger ones. And then I picked out, now let's see, hopefully I'll have enough of the tiny ones of these. Let's just say these have been very well loved. And you can just scatter these around other ways if you prefer to do that. I really have used these a lot. Okay, hold on. I know I've got more in there. There we go. I just had to dig down far enough to get to them. So I'm just going to put little tiny ones on this little grouping of the flowers here. And then also in the center of that flower, on the bottom of this one. Oops, trying to move those around. And then also on the bottom of this one. So that's going to give me a good little sprinkling of the jewels there. Let me get that there. All right, so I just need to find, bear with me here as I find a few more little ones in here to pull out and tuck on here. Like I said, they're in there. I just have to dig for them a lot. There's another little one. If you've ever gone to my Facebook Lives, we always laugh because, I mean, Leah as well, but we pretty much can't do a card without a little bit of bling on there. All right, I think I found enough there, so I think we're good on the numbers we have. Okay. I missed a couple comments, so let me just make sure. The close-up photo. No, we don't sell refills, so I really work hard to use. Part of why I've gone through so many is I'm always making certain cards for lives, and then we send out just the white for class kits like this. Yes, and I can take, same thing, I don't have any close-up detail shots of my finished card yet, but I can get those or post them. But I think we had pretty high quality photos in the on the project sheet in what we have. So, all right, Leah just used liquid glue. I like to use glossy accents with a detail tip on this just because it's easier for me. I guess I should use the right end of my jewel picker just to adhere these in place. And of course, my bottle wanted to clog a little bit there, so came out a little slow. And as soon as I stick these in place, I think we're done with this card, and then we can switch back over to Leah to let her do her other one. I'll show a closer look here in just a second. And Jewel, I've woken up with I've found a sequin in my teeth once, thinking it was a popcorn kernel. So I guess jewels might be a little harder to actually get stuck in your teeth, but they probably stick to your cheek really well for sure. It's kind of funny. The things we crafters find. Get one up your nose. That would not feel good. Just watch your nose if you decide to take a nap on your craft desk. 2 a.m. You are dedicated. I thought I was getting up super early here at 4 a.m. today to go ahead and start this. And yes, these are the jewels mix I saw. I think Leah answered that already. And I see there's a link on there. Okay, so there we have this one finished. So excited that I got to make this with you guys and join you today. And here's the other one. This is the sample one that's on your project sheet. So again, however you mix and match the different colors, you've got lots of different options with this. And if you have some of our inks, you could recreate all of these in lots of different color combos. Oh, good. I'm so glad the class speed was great. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get my, I'm going to wait and see here if Leah's ready to pop on.
I am here.
Okay, I will mute myself.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to try to get through as much of this A2 card as we possibly can. I'm a little bit slower of a crafter than Heather is. So we're going to see how much we get done. But no matter what, if we don't get through it all, you do have those project sheets available to you that we can finish. So I actually wanted to show you guys a little method that I do if I'm wanting to use that detail black ink and ink blend right away, because Heather had mentioned how, you know, hers smudged a little bit. So the thing about a nice crisp black ink is that they're typically hybrid, which means they need a little bit of time to dry. And depending on the climate and where you live, that dry time is different. But the awesome thing about a hybrid ink is that it's alcohol marker and watercolor friendly as well. So while it does take a little bit of time to dry, the great thing about it is you can use it for so many different mediums. So I want to show you guys a tip that I do if I am creating something that I need to make right away. Like I don't have time to let the hybrid ink dry first. So we're going to take that nice, big, beautiful floral from the Floral Notes stamp set and put it in your stamping platform. This is also, as Heather cut hers, just a 4 by 8.5 inch piece of cardstock that I just trimmed from one of the pieces of cardstock we sent in your kit. So I am not going to ink it up with detail black ink yet. What you'll want to do is just use a lighter color, any lighter color. You can use one of the lighter colors that we sent you. I'm going to go ahead and just use a light gray. If you have a gray ink near you, great. If not, use one of the lighter shades from the inks that we sent in your kit. The thing about it is it does not matter what color it is because we are going to stamp over top of it when we're done. So just ink this up. It doesn't have to even be perfect because, as I mentioned, we are going to stamp this again when we're done with the ink blending. So go ahead and stamp that up and get it stamped to your cardstock. And now you have a guide for doing your ink blending. Now, the key thing is you do not want to move this stamp from your stamp positioner or your stamping platform. So leave it as is. And I did not say this at first, of course, but also you want to make sure that you butt your paper up against the far side of your stamping platform so that you know where the stamp will align for the second time. So go ahead and just set your stamping platform aside with your stamp set in it. And then we are going to go ahead and tape down your stamped piece. And we are going to go ahead and grab those layering stencils one more time. And we are going to ink blend again. So while Heather was doing her class, I went ahead and I marked my stencils because I have sample stencils. You guys don't need to do this, but I fumbled with them so much in that first one that I did not want that to happen again. So I went ahead and marked them so I know what goes where. Okay, and then we're going to grab a little bit more tape and tape this down. Now, something you might notice with these stencils is they do not line up perfectly, meaning you're not filling the flower. It doesn't line up like with the exact line of the stamp. And that was on purpose, friends. So if you feel like you're having a hard time lining it up, know that they're not meant to. They're meant to have like a whimsical feel to them that we feel like it gives that a little bit more of like an artistic, a little bit more of an artistic feel, a little bit more whimsical. So you're going to see where it overlaps the stamp lines a little bit, and that is totally okay. So we are going to start this first layer of stencils, the larger florals, and we are going to ink them up in sky blue. And I have switched over to a life-changing brush for this one. Okay. And we are gonna do just a nice soft touch just to keep those nice and light. But the great thing about it is you're gonna get that nice pool where the brush hits the edges of the stencils to give it some nice gradation. Now, sky blue, if I'm using sky blue. You just use the lighter shade for the petals that we sent you. Sky blue is very light. So sometimes you got to get in there and do a couple of layers to really make it look the way that you want it to. Not all of our light tones are like that. Some of them are not quite as light. So you can actually, one layer over would be fine. But as you can see, I did a couple of times over on each flower for this color. Okay, so we have got the first layer on there, and that looks so pretty. So then we're gonna go ahead and do the second layer. And you just wanna kind of match them up with the stamped image. As I mentioned, they're not like an exact lineup. They're very close, but they're not exact. Okay, so for this second layer of flowers, which is the details and the smaller flowers, we are gonna ink them up in a darker blue, which is, I'm using Storm, but you will just use the darker tone that we sent for your petals. Make sure there's no sky blue over here. And this one you can be a little heavier handed if you want to really make those middles shine. I like to be heavy handed on the middles of the larger florals, but then kind of do those smaller florals the way that I did the second set, a little lighter hand at first. And then you can get in there and just add a little bit of dimension, just like at the bases of them. And you don't have to use Post-it tape. You can really, tape down your stencils with anything. Post-it tape is just what I happen to have on hand. Okay, so I'm gonna wipe this stencil down. And while we're at it, I'm just gonna show you guys this real quick. So we have this piece here, and I'm gonna have to move this, but that's okay, because I do wanna show this to you. So I have rubbing alcohol just in a little spray bottle. And if you just give it a couple spritzes like that, you can then wipe and clean your stencil off, and it's clean, perfectly clean. It gets all the ink off from the little nooks and crannies from the detail parts of this stencil. And then it dries super quickly. So you could actually go ahead and use this stencil again, like immediately. And that's what I love about having the little bit of rubbing alcohol on my table. And as someone mentioned, you can use hand sanitizer as well. That's a little bit more goopy, for lack of a better term. So it might take a little bit longer to dry, which is what I love about just having a little bit of rubbing alcohol in just a spray bottle. It's just a little tip there for you when you're using your stencils. Okay, we're gonna get this final layer on here. So this, for the leaves, I'm gonna use Meadow, which is just one of our lighter shades of green. Use whatever green we might have sent to you for petals, or if you have our full set of inks, or any of our inks, feel free to use whatever colors you want to. It's a great thing about these stencils. You can, there's so many different color options. You can use them with any inks. You can use them with lots of different mediums. So go ahead and just go to town with different colors. You can use colors and really make these work for any season, any time of the year. They're really very fun and versatile. Okay, so we got the leaf layer here. That one is very easy to do. Sorry, I have lots of notifications coming in on my phone, so I don't think you guys can hear that, but I apologize if I notice them. So there is the big reveal of the blue set of flowers. So we are going to now take this back. over to our Misty. Okay, so we're gonna bring our stamping platform back out and put our ink blended piece back in. And now we are going to stamp over top of it, again, in the detail black. And so this is for when you are wanting to create with that hybrid black ink that needs a little bit of time to dry, but you don't have time to let it dry. This is a great hack, I guess, for being able to use it that way. I will stamp this twice just because that is what I do. Because I'm a pretty light stamper. I don't have a real heavy hand. So I'm very thankful for stamp positioners giving me the ability to stamp twice. And as you can see, I'm using the full-size detail ink pad for this. It's a much bigger area to cover, so it goes a little bit quicker, but you can use the ink cube as well. Okay. And perfect. And then you get that beautiful outline image. You haven't smudged it. And now it can take that time to dry while you continue on with the rest of your card. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down. And we are going to work on that background while we let this part dry. So let me just get this cleaned off a little bit. And we're going to take this out. And yeah, you could even leave it gray. I have created a card where you have the more subtle tone as well, and that's beautiful too. But there's something about that really great punch of black, that crisp black, that really makes these flowers pop. So I wanted to make sure that I showed you guys that tip, but you absolutely could leave it as is as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set this aside. Now we are going to ink blend a background that looks like this. So we're going to use that same diagonal stripe stencil that we've used. Now I have pre-cut my background. This is basically the width of the stencil, which is 3 5/8. And then it's just by 5 because I wanted it to mat well in the middle of an A2 card. So you can also ink blend your background first if you'd like, and then trim it down. Completely up to you. I went ahead and pre-trimmed it so that it would just be a little bit quicker because I knew we might run out of a little bit of time for this card. So I'm just going to take some tape. You can use washi tape, you can use painter's tape, really anything. And I'm going to stick this down because I am going to be ink blending edge to edge on this piece. Okay, so we're going to use this diagonal stripe stencil, and you just want to line it up with the edges of the paper, and then we're going to go ahead and tape it down. Okay. I might actually add a couple more pieces of tape just at the edges, just to make sure that I do not accidentally move this down as I am ink blending. Okay, so we're going to take that lighter tone again that we're using. Mine is sky blue. Yours is whatever we sent in the petals. But feel free to mix and match as you see fit. Just make sure the colors are complementary. And we're going to do the first layer in sky blue. Sky blue is very light, so you might not be able to see it super well while I'm doing it on the video. Hopefully you can see it, but if not, just know that there is color going in there. And this doesn't have to be perfect. You've got those diagonal stripes to be the guide for you. You want to blend this one maybe a little bit heavier handed just to get that blue to really show up. Some other things that you can do with that floral notes stamp while I'm ink blending this, you can do what I did there, use the lighter ink and then ink blend, and then you can go ahead and heat emboss. So you could do that outline over top of it and heat emboss it in white or gold or silver, really, you know, any color of embossing powder. So that's another great option. And then something that we didn't do in this class today, but you can also just stamp that outline image in, you know, either heat emboss it or stamp it in a watercolor or marker friendly ink like our detail black, and then you can color it. So there's just so many great options with these stamp sets that that have the layering stencils. So you can use them with or without the stencils. So we do love how versatile and fun they are. Okay, I think we're good on the sky blue. So I'm just gonna do a little wipe off of that. I don't need to fully clean it because I'm gonna use another shade of blue. So I'm not too worried about it if a little bit of ink transfers. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the diagonal stripes and we're going to just slightly overlap them for the next color. And so this will just give you a little bit thicker stripes and they will be two-toned. So it's really, really fun. And we're gonna go ahead and use that darker color. Again, for me, it's Storm, and for you, it's whatever color we sent for the petals. And we're gonna go ahead and ink blend the next set of lines. You can use pixie spray on these as well. Mine has a little bit of leftover pixie spray on it, but it probably needs to get sprayed again. That would make the stripes on the inside stay down. I don't feel like they move too much, so I don't worry too much about that. But if that worries you, you can definitely use a little bit of pixie spray for peace of mind. Okay. Let's get it a little bit darker right here in the middle. Okay. We're doing pretty good on time, I think. Just wipe that off. Okay, and so let's see how this did. So there you have that. And what you get is a two-toned stripe. I know the sky blue is probably a little harder to see on video, but you will be able to see it better in the photos that we can post in the group. It's also on that, the photos of these cards are also on that graphic that we shared when I did my little first live intro. So you do have that to look for as well in the group until we get the photos posted. Okay, so let's just do a little cleanup here. I am going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit because I'm going to put it away. So I'm just going to use a couple spritz of alcohol, and as you'll see, it will take that blue ink right off that is kind of residing right in those corners. This is the side that has pixie spray on it, so it's not as easy to wipe off, but it still does good enough. Okay, so we have this. We have our flower. I think that this is dry enough that we can go ahead and die cut our flower piece so we can start getting going on assembling this card as well. So let me grab my plates here. My plates are well loved, as you can see. I die cut and craft and create a lot. So let's get that centered on my plate here. Just gonna use a couple pieces of this Post-it tape. Sue, I think you can clean Pixie spray off with alcohol if you need to, but I just don't clean it off. And it kind of keeps and I don't use it on every stencil because this might get a little bit loud. Okay. Oh, I didn't realize there were shipping restrictions on that. That's interesting to know. So as I was saying, Sue, I don't typically clean off Pixie spray off a stencil, but I think you can get it off of your stencil with a little bit of rubbing alcohol or hand sanitizer. It might actually work better in that case because hand sanitizer is a little bit thicker. Okay, so we've got the floral piece die cut now. So we do still need to place and stamp the sentiment. So we're going to do that next. I'm sure it does sound a little bit loud. The electronic die cutting machines are fantastic, but they are a little bit loud. That is for sure. I think it's 70%, Mimi, but don't quote me on that. I don't have the actual bottle right here with me. Okay, so we are going to use the Floral Notes stamp set again, one of the sentiments from it, and we're going to use this one that says, "You did awesome." So I also have this word friend die cut from that phrase builder hello die cut set that we sent in your kit. And so I'm going to use it to kind of place my sentiment. So this is going to kind of come down here like that. So we want to put it about right there. Yeah, perfect. Okay. And let's just make sure that looks straight. I can use my little guide to make sure. Yeah, okay. Really make sure that sticks down. Okay, so once again, we're going to ink up this sentiment with detail black ink. I'm switching back over to the ink cube just because I prefer that for sentiments. Now this is a very dainty sentiment with the script word and the small serif lettering. So I am once again going to stamp it twice just to get that good impression, but to keep the integrity of the stamp. So what you want to do is just to make sure you don't push too hard. If you push too hard, you're going to cause this stamp to really, in a way, kind of bubble. So we're going to stamp this up one more time. I might have got a little excess on there, but I think it'll be okay. Just wipe that little bit off. Okay. All right, perfect. Oopsies. And let's get this wiped down. Okay, we are basically to assembly, so I think we're going to make it through all 3 of these cards, which is exciting. I'm happy that we were able to get through them all. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put the sentiment away. And you can put your stamping platform away as well, because you are not going to need it any longer. I do need to just go to my left real quick and grab my foam tape roll, so give me 1 second. Okay. All right, up first, you should have a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock that has been cut in half to make a top folding A2 sized card. So you just want to go ahead and put that into whatever scoring piece you have and score it at 5.5 and then fold it. Okay. So then we are going to take our background and we're going to pop it up with foam tape. Now I have this is like the biggest roll of foam tape ever, so I'm gonna leave it off to the side here so that it doesn't just totally obstruct your view. This way. Oh, Hillary, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, we wanted to make sure that you could get really good use out of these kits. So that's why we sent the full products to you versus just kitting everything. And then you can just add your own, add more cardstock into it and just create to your heart's content. Okay. So went ahead and added the foam tape on here. And we are going to place that in the middle of the card. As you see, you get a little bit more border around it with the little smaller space, or with a little bit of the smaller panel. I apologize. That was the dumb word. Okay. And now I'm hoping, okay, good. I was worried there for a minute that I put it on backwards, but I didn't. So we're good to go. Okay, so for this card, we are going to trim down the floral, and we're going to use it in 2 pieces here. So I'm doing this. I also, as I mentioned, have already pre-cut the word friend from the Phrase Builder Hello set, and that's going to be a part of the sentiment. But we're going to put the flowers down first because I don't mind if the word friend overlaps with some of the florals. So I'm trying to keep it within the confines of the A2 card, but still give it a little bit of kind of zhuzhing it up a little bit. So I will just give it a little bit of dimension around the leaves. And then we're going to take a little bit of liquid glue and just put it down the middle of this. And then we're going to stick it to the front. Okay. And I probably need to add a little bit more, but first things first, we are going to trim this down. So just be brave, take your scissors out and trim it down at the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more glue underneath it. Yep, we're real close. I'm really close to finished. We may not get to putting the jewels on this card, but you have the sheet to help you out on that. And so then the second piece is just going to go at the very bottom of this card. Now you can trim this side off here. I'm going to leave it for now because I tend to send cards in like a bigger envelope. But you could absolutely trim it off. And then finally, we are going to glue down this word, the friend word. And then in your own time, when you have a minute, go ahead, look at the project sheet, and you can see where the placement for the jewels, and you can go ahead and add those on your own. You can also put them wherever you please. Okay. Oh, thank you. That's very nice, Hillary. Okay, so and then we're just going to, oops, save room for your tittle. I'll put the tittle on later as well, but just make sure you save a little bit of room for that. But there you have it. So there's that card. Here is what it looks like when you add the jewels and the tittle. but very fun. Okay, so I am going to switch over to face view. Heather, if you want to do that as well and jump back on, we'll say a quick goodbye.
All right, I'm popped on.
All right, so there we are. Okay, friends, thank you so much for joining us for our class today. I hope you enjoyed using the Floral Note Slimline Stamp Stencil Die combo. We had a great time. What do you think, Heather?
I thought it was a blast, and I love that everyone was able to keep up. It was hard to.
That's awesome. Yeah, we never really know if we go at too fast of a pace, too slow of a pace. Heather's a little bit faster paced crafter than I am. I'm kind of slow.
I felt like I was slow today, but
yeah, I don't think, well, it was really early your time. So we are so happy that you guys joined us today. Definitely reteach these cards for your own businesses. That's what we created them for. Be sure to check out Pinkfresh Studio on Instagram for tons of inspiration for all of our products. You can get great ideas there. We have an amazing creative team, friends. So our Instagram account or our blog are just really great places, or even our Facebook page. We do share everything onto our Facebook page as well. Really great places to garner inspiration for all of the products that we release. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We had a blast teaching you these cards today, and we look forward to seeing your versions out there. So we hope that you guys have a great rest of your time with all of the great Notions, Commotions classes you're going to be attending. And other than that, we hope you guys have a wonderful day.
yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.